Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Let's kick off today's video with a story about tracking, tattling, and one heroic tuber that delivered some of the most glorious passive aggression the Postal Service has ever seen. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. You want to track us? Enjoy the scenic route, courtesy of USPS. My kid's mother, my ex, is what you might politely call a control enthusiast. Realistically, though, she's a full-on control freak. We've had a shared custody agreement for a few years now, alternating weeks, and while the logistics are fine on paper, the constant barrage of messages, check-ins, and boundary pushing has made it exhausting. This overbearing nature of hers, it was one of the many reasons I walked away from that relationship in the first place. Our daughter, now a smart, sarcastic, fiercely independent teen, has been growing increasingly tired of her mother's controlling ways. She's well into her teenage years and knows her rights, her tech, and more importantly, how to dodge her mother's obsessive tracking habits. My ex has tried every method under the sun to keep tabs on her. Life 360, Find My iPhone, random location pings through various apps, even sneaky text check-ins disguised as concern. But my daughter's too tech-savvy for that. She disables tracking when she feels like she needs space and usually gives her mother just enough information to keep things from escalating too far. This summer, my daughter and I planned a camping trip with my new partner and her kids. Nothing extravagant, just a week out in a quiet, remote town surrounded by trees, a lake, and the kind of spot where phone signals go to die. I let my ex know our destination, the planned route, and when we'd be returning. No secrets, no room for drama. Or so I thought. The moment we hit the road, my daughter shut her phone off. She said she just wanted a break. No notifications, no hovering, no one constantly asking, "Where are you now?" She wanted peace. I supported it. She deserves a break from the madness, too. We had to take a slight detour on the way due to some unexpected road work. Nothing major, just a different route, but not long after, I got a text from my ex. "Why aren't you where you said you'd be? Why isn't she responding?" I was floored. How the hell did she know we'd changed courses? We got to the campsite later that evening and decided to take a closer look at my daughter's gear, and there it was, hidden neatly in one of the side pockets of her backpack, a damn AirTag. She must have slipped it in there the last time our daughter was at her place. No wonder she was monitoring our every move. It wasn't just her being nosy, she was literally tracking us like we were UPS packages. Now, we could have just thrown it out. Honestly, we almost did, but then inspiration hit. This little town we were camping in had a post office. We bought a large potato, yes, a potato, and my daughter drew a hilariously angry cartoon face on it. We popped the AirTag and the potato into a small, sealed mailing envelope and shipped it straight back to her mother's address. First-class passive aggression. We even added some padding to it so it wouldn't be immediately obvious what was inside. What followed was one of the most satisfying weeks of my life. As the AirTag moved, first to a distribution center in a nearby town, then across the state line, then slowly meandering toward her home, I got a steady stream of unhinged texts from my ex. She was losing it. "Where are you going? Why is your daughter's location bouncing around post offices? Is this a joke? You're in state now?" I ignored every message. My daughter, meanwhile, was having the time of her life around the campfire, no digital leash tethering her to the chaos back home. She even suggested we send a second package just for fun. Maybe a coconut next time, she joked. Eventually, the week came to an end. We dropped the kids back off at their mother's, said our goodbyes, and I figured that'd be the end of the saga. But weirdly, we didn't hear anything about the package for a while. I assumed maybe she'd figured it out and tossed it until the call came. A couple of weeks after our return, my daughter called me, barely able to speak through laughter. Apparently, the AirTag potato had finally arrived, and in classic postal fashion, it had taken its sweet time getting there. By the time it reached her mother's doorstep, the potato had turned into a foul-smelling, decomposing blob of rotting starch. The fallout was glorious. My daughter got grounded for a week, but even she said it was totally worth it. I didn't bother trying to argue with my ex. She knew what she'd done, and she knew exactly why we'd done what we did in return. She still tries to control and monitor, but she's been a lot less aggressive about it since the potato incident. Maybe because she's afraid of what we'll mail her next. And as for us, we still laugh about it every time we go camping. Kid's gonna go no contact in a few years, and Mom will wonder why. Worst of all will be the self-justification Mom will be thinking to herself. And Mom really won't have any clue that it's her own behavior that drove her children away. And our second story. My boss told me to talk to his lawyer, so I did, and made $10K. I got fired from my job due to an injury that required hospitalization for a significant amount of time. In my contract, it stated that if I had more than a certain number of sick days in a 12-month period, I could have my contract terminated with 1 month's notice. So that happened. Of course, I contacted my union. They told me it was a legal termination, but they asked about a specific part of my contract which dealt with my commission. It turns out I'd missed out on some special commission during my employment, and I totally missed it when I signed the contract. I can't get too specific due to anonymity. My union advised me to contact my boss, show him the part of my contract, and provide proof of the missing commission to try and get a settlement. I was aiming for an amount equivalent to $3,000. I went to see my boss and started with a nice chat. After about 10 minutes, I brought up the issue, showed him my contract, and explained that I had never received the commission stated in the contract. My boss told me straight up to contact his lawyers and that we were done talking. He told me to leave. Cue malicious compliance. I went home, looked through every paycheck, and set up a meeting with a lawyer. We found a lot of small mistakes on my paychecks and added everything up. We sent an official letter to his lawyers and received an answer from them a few days later. Now he's willing to settle for the first amount, equivalent to $3,000. I smiled and laughed. Me, no can do, Mr. Boss Man, not anymore. Now I want the full amount, $10,000 plus 15% in damages. Also, you have to pay all the legal fees. And I have proof of everything to back up my claim. The due date for the court came, and guess what? He lost, big time. I've now planned a nice vacation and still have more money than I originally asked for. I mean, seriously, you offered him a settlement option, which he rejected. Why, once you figured out he owes you a lot more, would he think that you might settle for the lesser amount? That's just stupid. He wasted a lot of money on lawyers to no end. And our last story. Power tripping HOA versus disabled veteran. A few months ago, my father-in-law, who's a 100% service-connected, permanently disabled veteran, faced one of the most infuriating experiences I've ever witnessed, courtesy of a power-tripping homeowners association. He's in his 70s now and uses a mobility scooter to get around most of the time. Though he can walk a few feet when needed, maybe 5 to 10 on a good day, it's not something he can do consistently or safely without assistance. To improve his quality of life, the VA stepped up in a big way. They funded the installation of a beautiful screened-in porch at the back of his home so he could comfortably enjoy fresh air and spend time with the family without having to navigate rough terrain or deal with bugs. They also installed a small therapy pool, which was specifically recommended by his doctors for joint pain and circulation issues. This wasn't just a luxury, it was medical. On top of that, the VA paid for a handicap-accessible walkway that led from the side of his house to the porch, replacing the grass path that was completely unusable for someone on a scooter. Now, this wasn't a rogue project. He did everything by the book. The contractor followed VA guidelines for the installation, and my father-in-law got the proper permits. He even submitted the plans to the HOA and got their approval in writing before the work started. We all thought that'd be the end of it. But as with most stories involving HOAs, things took a turn. About 2 weeks after the project was finished, he received a letter from the HOA. It claimed that the porch and walkway violated aesthetic uniformity rules and needed to be removed. No warning, no conversation, just the demand to demolish a medically necessary structure, one that had been fully approved. Understandably, he was shocked. He called the HOA to clarify, thinking maybe it was a clerical error or they had confused his property with someone else's. But when he got on the phone with them, the tone was anything but apologetic. He tried to explain his disability, the VA's involvement, the medical necessity of the features, and the fact that he had followed all the necessary steps. Their response, cold and dismissive. At the next HOA meeting, he went in person, as much as his body would allow, hoping to plead his case. What he got instead was a condescending lecture. One of the board members actually said, "If we let everyone build whatever they want because they're disabled, the whole neighborhood would look like a rehab facility." Someone else chimed in saying, "It's about preserving the visual integrity of the community." Another said, "We didn't realize how large it would be. We wouldn't have approved it if we knew." That was the moment I knew they weren't just tone deaf, they were malicious. I've got a decent legal background and a few contacts, so I called up a friend who specializes in disability law and HOA disputes. She was more than happy to take the case. We compiled all the documentation, the VA's medical recommendations, the contractor's adherence to ADA and VA standards, the initial HOA approval letter, and photos showing that nothing about the porch or walkway was gaudy or out of place. It was clean, modest, and expertly installed. Our lawyer drafted a cease and desist and followed it with a formal complaint citing violations of the Fair Housing Act and the Americans with Disabilities Act. Let me tell you, once those two little acronyms, FHA and ADA, hit the board members' inboxes, their attitude shifted fast. The HOA's lawyer replied with a tone that was significantly more respectful. After some back and forth, they sent a formal retraction of their previous demands. The letter was basically a long-winded way of saying, "We screwed up, please don't sue us." They acknowledged the legality of the construction and agreed to never raise the issue again. It was a massive relief for all of us. For my father-in-law, it was more than just a win, it was dignity restored. He's not someone who asks for special treatment. He served his country, sacrificed his body, and lives with pain every single day. All he wanted was to be able to enjoy his backyard and get to his therapy pool without crawling over wet grass or risking injury. The therapy pool helps him stay mobile, and being outside has done wonders for his mental health too. The HOA backed off, but the memory of their callousness still lingers. It reminded all of us how easy it is for people in power to forget basic human decency in the name of rules or aesthetics. But it also reminded us that you can fight back. You should fight back, because respect and accessibility are not optional. They're rights. Your father-in-law's story is exactly why advocacy matters. He didn't cut corners, didn't try to sneak anything past anyone. He followed every rule, got approvals, and still got hit with that condescending elitist nonsense. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.